How big is the indie manga space? Small, very small, and disorganized from what I've gathered. This video is not going to be charitable, and it does not bring me joy to have to speak so negatively about other comic artists as well. I love comics, manga, etc., and I love when people make them. I love reading it, and I love creating it myself. Saturday AM is an OEL, original English language manga publisher that I find kind of annoying. It propositions and overstates its success in the industry that is OEL and Western non European manga. This is a place that has little to no infrastructure, a tiny community, and let's be honest, is barely in view of Japanese manga consumers from any region. And with this, it presents its business as a legitimate avenue for indie artists to get elevated to being on par with the likes of popular manga such as Shonen Jump in terms of its reach, resources, and opportunity, when it's nowhere on that level to do so. Seriously, I don't know how many people I've run into over the years who think that joining their team will get them an anime, of all things, an anime. I'm sure many artists believe placing themselves within their ranks will greatly elevate their popularity, as opposed to, for example, staying solo. This is largely false, and selling people their dreams is the go to pedal of the creative world. If one cannot reach at least some of their goals on their own, they need to be very wary of betting on their desperation for success when making contracts. So, to be clear, no one's getting an anime through Saturday M, and their marketing hiccups, as we'll later discuss, will likely just hold you back in terms of reaching an audience for your work. So, White Manga, the co founder, White Manga is the only artist with notable popularity amongst its ranks, and he largely built that without the brand of Saturday M. If anything, Saturday M piggybacked off of him. His funds come more from being an art hauteur and a social media entertainer than from his comic work, and his popularity hasn't really trickled down to the channels and socials of other Saturday M creators, from what I've seen at least. Saturday M is not that popular. The only people I'm aware of who know what it is are usually other artists, and they know of it not by looking for new comics to read, but by scouting out whatever opportunity they can find as a prospect producer. I want to emphasize the word prospect because, yeah, unlike Webtoon and Dojin communities where people with ideas just, well, make their comics, a lot of OEL manga guys don't even have content to check out. Sadly, a lot of them are waiting for the perfect, magical opportunity to pitch their ideas to someone else so that they can hand them the confidence to put themselves out there. A number of these online creators spend more time gassing themselves up with fancy videos, websites, and marketing than just putting pen to paper and simply giving readers something substantial to, read. Yeah, a lot of them do have comics. I don't want to dismiss the OEL manga and manga inspired creators who do have content. But those with such substantial stories to read are unfortunately the minority. Look, I'm from Webtoon and spent most of my adolescent days reading doujins on Dynasty Reader, the Yuri manga website. I'm used to coming across series drawn by one person that has tens of chapters, so I can actually just get invested without having to sit through a cheesy YouTube pitch about how the author wants to break the mold in the industry. It's hard not to feel a little less than impressed when the average creator in the indie manga space has a one shot at best or drops one chapter every 2 years. Tangent, yeah, but only these people really know about Saturday AM. Your average Dandadan or JJK reader has no clue what they are, let alone buys their books. And the visibility of Saturday AM is so overstated and is largely, in my opinion, because the fans that they do have and the creators who want to look for a light at the end of the tunnel want there to be a diverse American manga publisher that's making waves. And trust me, I get it. Though I cannot stress how important it is to never be desperate to your own desires. Those who are desperate get manipulated. And Saturday, it feels kind of manipulative to me. Now, to be clear, I do not want to throw all of Saturday AM's creators under the bus. I don't want to completely diminish their efforts or the talents beneath them. This is largely the brand identity and business of Saturday AM. I don't want to say that there was no success to be found. I mean, they do sell comic books, but the vibe of them constantly juxtaposing their 1 to 2 volumes of Clock Striker next to whatever popular Shonen Jump title blows up in whatever year that likely gets millions of sales is known by every man and his dog on their promotional graphics feels a bit misleading and disingenuous. Also, note how slow their releases of volumes are in comparison to Japanese manga. They give themselves titles that sound impressive on the surface level, but either can't be proven because of the nature of said title, or can't be proven due to lack of information, like most diverse, first black anime character, bestseller, best manga. Dude, it's a bunch of empty buzzwords. So, starting with their branding, it feels largely out of touch. Its own name, Saturday M, is referring to Saturday morning cartoons. You know, that bygone form of media that was on its way out when I, a now 25-year-old, was a kid. Yeah, you're attempting to appeal to the current, aka shonen youth demographic with a brand name that would only be fondly recognized by old heads in their 30s and 40s. Are you serious? And it's represented by a foot. Why a foot? What is this? How do you do fellow kids ass branding? And before anyone thinks I'm being harsh, I've seen smaller indie manga brands like Loom Bento, Shrine Comics, and Nor Caesar have more appealing brand concepts. Even On So Go has a better take on nostalgia branding than Saturday AM, in my opinion. So next, there's social media marketing. It kind of uses the language of a defensive political grifter, consistently feeding trolls and inspiring eye rolls by rambling on about their haters and patting themselves on the back for simply having representation, like a corporate CEO. From what I can tell, this is largely Frederick Jones rhetoric. Frederick Jones is the founder. And the way this guy tackles the censors reminds me of those teachers in high school. You know, the ones that were the butt of jokes because they treat their students with no respect, take themselves way too seriously, and shout the most unself-aware of comebacks when they hear the slightest of chatters in the back of the classroom. White Manga, the co-founder, takes a more painfully squeaky clean, cozy centrist approach of, it doesn't really matter, but let me drone on about this topic that doesn't matter for as long as humanly possible, to internet discourse. Other than that, he's making inoffensive how-to videos. He seems chill, but this is obviously my opinion. This team is like the two extremes of unapproachable, dorky business optics. One's painfully arrogant and out of touch, and the other is boring and lacking a personal touch. And they're pulling this during a time where consumers feel more fed up than ever with soulless corporate performance. But, you know, you do you, I guess. They do have their fans, so it must appeal to someone. I guess it just doesn't really appeal to me. So, next, their distribution model. It can use some updates if it wants to compete with other comic platforms and publishers. Their magazine model does not reflect the style of modern media consumption. No one buys comic book magazines, and certainly not young people with a strapped budget. Of course, this model is likely a reflection of mirroring manga magazines because a lot of OEL manga peeps cannot get their heads out of the sphincters of Shonen Jump, the only manga producer in the world apparently. And many of Saturday M's works do not allow you to try before you buy, or follow it with a free or cheap subscription model, from what I can tell. Even Japanese manga like Kodansha and Jump Plus allow this. Even Lezen Comics, the Korean platform. Other comic platforms like Webtoon are just straight up free with payments for pacing or early access. And now they don't even have an app. Good luck garnering new readers in a mobile age. Saturday M shallowly appropriates Japanese media demographics like shonen and josei. Josei, I'm pronouncing it correctly, right? Which don't really have existing approximations in the States, and their website's design, oh god, I can make an entire video on their design, but let me sum it up. Their design reflects, in my opinion, an aim to present itself to libraries, vendors, and other comic creators, rather than comics and manga consumers. Their vision, news reviews, descriptions of content are all front and center for display, but finding the actual comic content takes multiple clicks to find and on the smallest of buttons. Shoddy design priorities, if you ask me. If you want to know what a business is about, or if they're good at being what they're about, look at their website. Look at the hierarchy of their design. Look at what they prioritize. That's all I'm saying. Any decent comic platform worth its salt makes reading the comics right away and getting invested in them its top priority. Us readers don't care about awards, descriptions, or fancy banners. Where's chapter 1? Again, look at Manga Plus, Viz Media, or Webtoon. Alright, so here's their front page. So we have these banners again, graphic novels, holiday sales, issues of magazines. Their card game, another issue of a magazine, and a limited edition something SSD phone something magazine issues. Then how do you join Saturday? Again, emphasizing that those who are, they're expecting the people who's reading this to be like, oh god, no, prospect creators. Next, they have their, little description thing, diverse manga, blah blah blah. Again, their magazine brands, and at the bottom we finally have the series themselves, because for some reason that would be at the bottom. We have this, we got the big old banner, we got all this information. Finally, we have the actual thing itself, and it's find out more, not even read, find out more. So when we click on it, we go through all this information, finally read here, thank you. Then finally read it. And then we have the chapters. Now, you may be like, well, okay, we got to it. But again, like, compare this to step on, up, just comics. Comics, like right away, here are all our titles, here's all the stuff, don't you want to read them? Doesn't this look cool? Like, read our stuff, please. And I look around, I'm like, oh, this thing looks cute. That looks cute. I click on it. There we go. I can just start reading it. You know what I mean? Like, because like the primary goal, right, on a comic website is to get you to want to read the comic and then read the comic right away. It's not like, wow, Shonen Jump got so many awards. Here are our awards. It's not, oh, how do you join Shonen Jump? It's not, oh, are you a library or a vendor? Here's how you buy a bunch of our issues. No, it's like they assume you're here because you want to read comics, and here's our comics. Here's our stuff. Here are our titles. Here are our characters. Like, cause look, this is just here for formalities. Cause let's be real, like when you read, most people don't read the summaries. Okay, they don't care. They look at the artwork. They look at maybe the genre, and they'll be like, oh, that looks like something to check out, and they'll figure out what the story's about when they actually read it, Same with, ignore this, it just always takes me to my comic. On the front page, comics. Here, click on it. Here, click on something. Please, read our comics. That's what a comic site, that's how a comic site is set up. Now, let's even go to an indie comic site, Bento. For some reason, it took us to the About Us. That's not usually where it starts. Starts here. Here we go. Comics. Now, even they kind of have a little bit of this issue because this is very common with, again, for some reason, indie manga. But still, here's the comic. You click on it. Chapters. Wow. It's almost like they want you to read their comics. It's almost like they expect that you're here to read their comics. I even have a site. I didn't want to show mine first because I'm, not trying to flex my stuff. But again, all comics, all of my series stuff that came out. The individual comics themselves are right here. There you go. There's the episodes. Like it's almost like, again, when you click on a website for comics, you want to read comics. So that's why I got a little bit nitpicky about the way it's designed, because design tells you the intention of the designer. These are all human decisions, right? A person sat down and designed this and thought about, who do I expect to be on the site, and what do I expect them to do on my site, and where do I expect them to go? And everyone knows online that, like, when you want somebody to do something, you want it to take as little clicks as possible, because between those clicks is where you can lose someone's attention. So you want them to engage as soon as possible. So and that's what I mean. Some of these sites some of these comics don't actually allow you to even read first. This one, for example, not really. Like, it doesn't have that. And again, their app thing is like broken. It's not there. And when I looked it up on Google Play on my phone, it didn't appear. So, quick rundown. Now, I know these are up here, but again, look how small they are. They don't have any fancy graphics. They're not expecting you're going to click on these. They're just, like, sort of there. You're not going to notice them. So, and then, again, at the bottom, they have all their news stuff. News. And then all the fancy websites and you know, publications they're featured on. So, again, this front page tells you what they're about. And when you're a comic creator, this is something that I might talk about in another video, if I ever make other videos. When you're a comic creator and you want to be somewhere, you want to be somewhere that's honestly catering to readers, right? Because readers is the only reason you're putting your stuff on there, right? So you want it to be designed for readers. You want it to be designed to be easily accessible to readers, to appeal to how they are able to consume media, to appeal to what's convenient for them. Are they going to be using their phone? Are they going to be using their computer? You know, things like that. You want that because that's you know, those are the people who are going to be reading your stuff. You don't want to be somewhere that's catering to creators, honestly. I mean, I know creators want their customization. They want to be acknowledged by the site. That's obviously important. But if it's just catering to creators, then guess what? You're just going to have a bunch of creators there and like no one reading. And then that completely defeats the purpose. Anyway, let me go on with the video. I just want to break down a little bit more about this whole website design thing and how it's not just in my head. This is like how it's designed, and I think that the design speaks a lot about the priorities of SAIGAMI. While the brand does have its legit fans, it's hard to actually gauge how financially successful it is or how viable its products are, especially when its biggest creator, White Manga, admits he makes a living off social media, not his book sales. So, considering most SAIGAMI creators don't even have his social media presence, how are they doing? Now, speaking of their creators, SAIGAMI has had a number of legitimate controversies concerning the mistreatment of artists, including canceling comics without notifying the creators. A number of artists have left the company on raw terms, but I'm mostly interested in the response that we've gotten from Frederick Jones. Yuck. Look, I don't know this guy personally, but this kind of response makes him seem like one of the most unsufferable people to work with. We'll come back to this in a moment, but there are real issues and real progress being addressed by the black community. And people like Jones who use blackness as a deflection and a prop, who aren't addressing real issues when they do this, is clownery. In short, don't be a clown. This is clownery right here. Oh god, did I have to actually read this thing? Just look at this. It's like if someone leaves your website, and he just had like a bucket list of buzzwords. It's like he had like a list of like, I need to shove as many words, buzzwords, female leads, LGBTQ, wonderful reviews, and it's like all in caps. It's like, what is this? Like, did an AI write this? What the fuck? Suffice it to say, I'm not really a fan of SAIGAMI, and for transparency's sake, despite myself being big on indie comics, none of its products actually resonated with me. I'm happy these series do have fans, let me be really clear about that. I don't hate its products, but none of them have garnered my interest personally. I will say a few things about its flagship series, Apple Black and Clock Striker, though. So, Apple Black is an OEL manga that, in my opinion, it mostly impresses people by how it perfectly resembles professional manga from an aesthetic level. The art heavily resembles that of well-known mangaka Tite Kubo of Bleach, but actually reading the comic kind of lacks the craft of professional manga and has constant undigestible exposition dumps, congested panel layout, kind of just generally bad direction. Like, the actual opening of the comic has to be one of the worst I've ever seen, with us staring at a blank building as the lore is talked at to us. Dude, if you're gonna actually make an opening that talks about your lore, actually draw a picture of the lore. Like, what even is this? Or just maybe actually start your series in a character moment instead of a lore dump, because it's kind of like the most amateurish and least engaging way to open on a fantasy series. But Anyway, let me sum up my thoughts on it through a comment I left on Tapir Clip's Substack review of the series, which is gold, by the way, and everyone should read it. He also has a YouTube channel. His Saturday AM content is of the best, and I hope he doesn't mind I link his review. I refuse to put myself through reading more of Apple Black or writing more about it myself. So here's my comment. No matter how many times I forced myself to attempt reading Apple Black, I could not stop being exhausted due to how many elements are all crammed into the opening chapters. Feels like no character or concept gets room to breathe enough to understand or appreciate it. The fact that you had to make a list, in his review, he had to make a list of the relationships to keep up with the ongoing content despite your familiarity with the franchise, it's like, okay, I'm not crazy. Apple Black is just hard to digest. Even though their Saturday manga were easy to read, I did check out the ones that were free. Feels like White Manga put all his energy into replicating the appearance of an authentic manga because that's the most immediately impressive to the eye, for eye catchers, for YouTube videos, sponsors, and other creators. But it falls apart once you actually try to become a reader. As someone who's been reading manga, doujinshi, and all kinds of random back-end comics forever, Apple Black's most impressive feat is how much of it I can look at and step away with zero engagement. These reviews are God's work. By far the most entertaining thing to come out of Apple Black is a rainforest taper, making it understandable through goofy rants. Saggy tit sentiment was literally gold. So, Clock Striker was actually genuinely nice and competently crafted from what I can remember, art and story-wise. It would probably be better received, or probably would have been better received if it wasn't how it was initially being marketed as the Black Girl manga in the middle of the 2010s. If you were not there, the 2010s was basically like a dumpster fire for people arguing back and forth about identity politics over media. That's all I have to say. This is an astute observation. Friends should just marketed the series about what it actually was about. A steampunk world. Steampunk was all the rage then. Like I said, comes off like an out-of-touch teacher putting a kick-me target on his back, and thus he invited a bunch of trolls to their platform and resigned himself to fighting them for years to come. Now, this is coming from a black woman herself. I can see that the MC is black. It kind of feels like obnoxious marketing and mocking its intelligence of the targets to be like, hey guys, have you noticed that she's black? Her black hairstyles are hella cute though. They are really fucking cute. Let me be clear about my own stances. Diversity in media of all kinds is really cool, and it is how we create variety as well as learn about and express so many interesting concepts and experiences in art. Anyone can make any kind of art and make it about whatever they are inspired to make it about. And at the end of the day, themes, concepts, and visions only go as far as the skill and ingenuity behind it. Great creators focus on, well, creating. They they let their art speak for itself. They want their art to speak for itself. I mean, that's what you're trying to do, right? They let their audience engage on their own terms. I imagine that an artist is someone who values freedom, both for themselves and others, and thus they don't spend more time yapping away to control people than they do pursuing their passion, if creation is their utmost passion. After this, I personally can't wait to go back to my cave where I indulge in Yuri, my own comics, and reading about paleontology findings. Pandering to the uncultured go woke go broke fart sniffers obviously is not my intention to criticizing Saturday AM. Those people spend more time looking for low-hanging fruit punching bags to make themselves feel superior while also offering no substance creatively themselves. I'm sure Saturday AM has its share of racist detractors, and I'm sure a lot of them think they aren't racist because they also couldn't tell their own mouth hole from their asshole if you gave them an anatomy textbook. I'm pretty left-leaning, so keep that in mind to what I'm about to say next. But I care more about talking to those adjacent to my own opinions rather than those who will never care about what I have to say. It's just, dude, I don't like wasting my time. It's not directly related to Saturday AM, but it's a talking point that's been on my mind lately because of the drama around Saturday AM, and it kind of probably caused me also to make this. Okay, let me just say it. I personally do not resonate with the new pop sentiment of I want X representation in an art from another culture. Dude, no, I as a black woman do not need to see my ethnicity in Japanese anime and manga, nor do I look to Japan, a monoculture of East Asians who largely have no experience in my background, to hold the reins in representing me to the world. Honestly, it sounds like a recipe for disaster. America can barely represent me respectful to the world itself. As blacks, we have our own music, art, stories, and storytelling. And if we want to bring forth creative works, original, new works inspired by anime, we can do that and have done that. That's what cultural diffusion is. But why would I need the people on an island in the Pacific? Why would I tell them that they need to represent me in their culture? No, that's what black culture is for. That's that black people exist. We what I engage in Japanese art for, well, Japanese art. If a Japanese person does have a genuine organic interest in creating black characters, like, for example, the cast of Eureka 7 or June from Nana, and they make compelling characters, and that's fucking awesome. I mean, to any culture, anyone to any culture, do whatever you want. I love it. I want people to make stuff from their hearts, and sometimes you're just really interested in different cultures. I mean, I feel that way myself, but I'm not going to endorse a movement of we need more black in anime to push those expectations as opposed to just letting Japanese creators create what they organically come up with. Like, it's kind of what the fuck. It's a little what the fuck to me. Like, imagine if people from Osaka start demanding that Kendrick Lamar start rapping about the experiences of the Japanese salaryman on a practical level. Even if he studied up on the subject, is he really the best person for that? Or are people just parroting things that sound like vague moral progress that they heard on TikTok and Twitter? Or is it partially because anime is popular and mainstream now, and therefore you need to insert yourself, which comes down to your racial identity for some reason, in there just to be part of the spotlight? Remember when anime was counterculture? Remember when it wasn't cool? When most of the people who were into it were actually kind of like outcasts from their own cultures? Remember when it wasn't the default to be into it? Remember when anime was actually about stepping outside of your own box? Remember when we could actually get away from the shenanigans and ideas of the culture we live in and bullshit with the shenanigans of another world of ideas and still find uniting human resonance? Well, obviously, y'all don't remember that because most of those attached to this new idea got aboard the hype train once it became the worldwide phenomenon, and it's a way to keep up with mainstream conversations. Anyway, former, that's the appeal of engaging with an art from another culture for me, be it Arabic pop, Scandinavian symphonic metal, Korean manhwas, Chinese martial arts movies, or Japanese manga and anime. I'd be lying if I didn't say a little bit of every crowd is getting on my nerves. But alas, that is what crowds do best. They annoy. So, like I said, this opinion specifically isn't Saturday AM per se, but first of all, this is my video. I could talk about whatever the hell I want. And this is sort of a segue into my thoughts on Saturday AM's favorite talking point, representation. If someone looks at your work, your character, let them point to the character and say, wow, they represent me. Let things be natural. I know, something we forgot how to do with all of the profit, trend, and algorithm chasing that controls our self-proclaimed individualist Western culture. Anyways, if your character ends up representing a subculture, an ethnicity, a generation, a cult following, a social group, let those people come to that conclusion organically and on their own terms. Just like refrain from deciding for others. Quit being so arrogant as to self-appoint. It reeks of being forced. It gives me the same vibes as like an industry plant. Representatives, in a political sense, in theory, are supposed to be democratically elected for a reason. Saturday AM doesn't get to create a character or a brand and decide for others that what they do, think, and feel represents an entire group. The fact that Saturday AM props itself as the face of diversity in manga simply because they shouted it the loudest is most. It's obnoxious and it annoys me. There's a ton of manga and manga inspired comic creators from all over the globe of endless varieties, ethnicities, identities, and general backgrounds that have nothing to do with your brand. Some who, like me, don't even like your brand. But I guess you're the diverse manga publisher, huh? In the face of diverse and black manga. Says who? You? Because you called it first? Okay, fine. But if you want to be a representative, then expect checks and balances. Expect those who you decide of your own volition to directly and indirectly represent to be critical of you, because why wouldn't they? Expect the world of diverse creators to be giving you feedback. But from what I know about Saturday AM, and I'm willing to change my mind if given a reason, they don't like genuine feedback if it's very negative, and they do not respond in earnest to it. Like most companies, they have a script they're going to stick to. None of this would happen if more indie and manga creators like Sarah Dam would just stop trying to be wannabes. Like, stop trying to flex and appear corporate as a sign of merit. Let your art represent yourself, your ideas, rather than your talking points. Embrace the humility and approachability that comes with being indie. One thing I really didn't get about the indie space, going off script here a little bit, one thing I did not really get about the indie space on the manga side is how much people try to appear so corporate as a way to make themselves look more important. There's nothing wrong with being not big. There's nothing wrong with not being the most popular person in the room. There's nothing wrong with not pulling in the most money. You're a freaking artist. Like, dude, just like be into your stuff. And to be honest, the entire vibe of owning what you are, which is most likely just a regular person who just likes to draw comics, is a big appeal to indie for the readers of indie. I like that on Webtoon. I know I could probably just go to the social media of whatever comic I just read and then just be a regular person who I could probably actually just talk with. You know, they have the same similar life that I do, but they also make comics. That's what makes it cool. That's what gives it a different experience than, you know, the non-indie stuff, the or big industries, because they're far away. You know, no one talks directly to you know, Achiro Oda, right? Like you in the West, you can't talk directly to him. You can't go and just conversate with him. He doesn't live a life anything like you know? And there's nothing wrong with that either. It's just like that's that experience, and you really can't replicate that because you're not there. So how about you just capitalize on like what you are? But no, instead a lot of like indie careers in the manga space particularly really try to like have this fake it till you make it, and their idea of faking it is like appearing honestly corporate. You go to their videos and they feel like job interviews where they're trying to sell you themselves the way you sell yourself in a job interview. It's, I don't know. In my opinion, that's just kind of lame. Like, just be you. Just own you. But anyway, relax, have fun, and be more in love with your craft than attention. And feel free to just correct any information I got wrong. I mean, I kind of just got frustrated and wrote this off the cuff. See y'all. Love y'all. Have a good day.